Hey everyone, welcome back to High Strangeness. We have a very special guest tonight. While we're waiting on her, though, I wanted to come in and say hey to everyone. So thank you for coming back, those of you who have come back, and welcome to anybody who is new. The fun thing about tonight's show is so a lot of you know SJ if you're part of the Hex community. If you don't know her, then you are in for a treat tonight. So, while I kind of disappeared from High Strangeness, I had been, meaning to come back. And what finally gave me the kick in the butt was I get a tweet from SJ, and she's like, you know what? You should revive High Strangeness. I have just had my first paranormal experience. And I'm like, oh, I want to hear all about this. So tonight she's going to come in and she's going to tell us all about her paranormal experience. So I am so excited to hear the details of this. I love hearing, personal stories directly from someone, because when you're on the internet, you never know what's fake, what people are writing for attention. It's a totally different thing when your friends and your acquaintances are like, listen, this happened to me, because they're not nuts. So you know that something's legit. So that is what we will be discussing tonight. I believe I've established everything correctly now, where we will not have the tech difficulties that we had last week. Somebody did point out, interesting how as soon as you started talking about Carrot Top, that everything went down. I know. Is there a Carrot Top conspiracy? So I will have to finish that conversation. That reptilians on a plane conversation at some point. Just this week flew by. I didn't have the opportunity to. Saturday was my only free day. Went to the reptilians plane list. No, but maybe Carrot Top did. Anyway, let's see who's in the chat tonight. We have Insidious Tomas. Tomas, so nice to see you back. Thank you for popping in tonight. Crypto Gains Club 369. Nice to see you again. We have Dingo Wolf. We have My Online Ghost. We have Hex Glenn. It's so nice seeing these familiar names, guys. I missed you all so much. So thank you all for being here tonight. Right? I know. I'm starting to think Carrot Top is in on all this. What is the chances that he would happen to be in that plane? I don't know. The guy you never hear about all of a sudden is on the reptilian plane. Anyway, we have SJ right here in the green room, so I'm gonna go ahead and bring her in. SJ, how are you doing? So nice to see you.
Hey, I'm fantastic. I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So I just I gave everybody the rundown of, I disappeared from this, and I kept wanting to come back, and I just needed that momentum and motivation. And you certainly gave it to me when you're like, oh, I have a paranormal story. Like, I have to hear this.
Yeah, so, absolutely. You're the first person that I thought of. I was just like, oh my God, like, what's going on with that girl in her stream? Because I love all that kind of stuff.
Oh, thank you. I am flattered. And, I was telling everybody, it's one thing when you read things online. You don't know if people are just doing it for likes, for attention. But when, you have a friend or an acquaintance who's like, I'm going to tell you this directly, and they're not crazy. So, something interesting is happening here. So I figured, we jump right into it. And if you don't mind me diving headfirst into the story. But before we start, I was just curious, before this experience, did you believe in the paranormal?
I did. I never had my own personal encounter, I would say, other than, and I hope it's not too echoey. I'm in a room that's kind of echoey, but hopefully it doesn't sound too bad. Like, I feel like I'm an empathic person, right? So I am a feeler, right? I've heard there's people who can see things, or they'll hear, their auditory, they'll hear things, right? So I do feel like in the past I've sensed presences, perhaps, in different places. Like, it's kind of like you just like get the chills, or like you get this kind of certain like feeling about something. But this was the first time that I seriously felt like something actually touched me more than once on two separate occasions, like in the same space over the course of a couple, like 2 nights. So it was definitely something I already like, I wasn't a non-believer for sure.
Mhm.
You know, I was like, oh, that, you know, it's also interesting to me, you know, whether people embellish things or not. Like, I'm definitely into the paranormal, but have never had my own real, like, physical encounter until this happened.
Oh, that's wild. So
Yeah.
yes, if you want to, whenever, if you want to go ahead and launch into that story, now I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm like, okay, what?
I'm trying to find,
Yeah.
um, I want to find the bar real quick because
Mhm.
they have actually a Facebook page. Oh man. If Polly or Semhex can happen to be tuned into this, they'll know. Let me try one thing here.
Oh, interesting. So you were out in public. You weren't at home.
No, this was
Okay.
out at
Oh,
a bar. Here
that's
we go.
wild.
Okay. So it's called Pete's Tavern.
Mhm.
So the first night we were walking around, this is Nampa, Idaho. It's kind of close to Boise. And I think as we were on our way to the bar, and I don't remember if this happened before or after the interaction I'm about to tell you,
Okay.
but I did hear that it was haunted. Basically, the person who was kind of showing us around town was like, "Oh yeah, they had kind of, I think, misspoken because I was under the impression that there was a basement under
Mhm.
this bar and that's what was haunted." And I was like, "Oh, that's interesting." I didn't really think twice about it. And on our way there, and I can't remember if we were like a block away or I feel like we might have been like around the corner from this particular bar. And we're walking and I felt something brush up against my calf, like as if it was an animal, like a
Oh,
cat or a dog, just very distinctly, just like
yeah.
that brushing feeling. It was, like about a second of just
Yeah. Like
that.
you knew it wasn't clothing, it was something.
Yeah. And I looked down and there's nothing there. I was like, anyone else? I mean, there's in my head, I didn't
Yeah.
say anything out loud. I didn't really like, you know, think about it much, but I definitely felt that.
Mm.
And again, like it was just kind of weird and out of context and I didn't really know what was going on. And so I did kind of brushed it off. Like there must have been something there or something I didn't see or, whatever. But I literally, when I felt it so strongly that I actually looked down expecting to see a cat or a dog at
Oh,
my
wow.
heels. And when we get to this bar, it's just like the most like hole in the wall, podunk little town bar. It's called, yeah, I think I just said it's called Pete's Tavern in Nampa. And the decor is just strange. There's a picture of Ernest from like Ernest Go, Ernest gets,
Yeah.
I forget all the names of his things, but this like old actor. And then there's this like light up tree in one corner. And like we had like a drink or two. There's a pinball machine. We're playing pinball. And then as the evening goes on a little bit, I look and behind the counter, kind of where this little light up tree is, I notice that there's a little shrine basically. And in the shrine is a box. And I don't remember if it said ashes of or like it was kitty cat basically.
Uh-huh.
So it was the ashes of a cat
Oh, okay.
behind the counter at this bar. And I was like, dude, like in my head, like I didn't
Yeah.
say that this night, I didn't say anything to anyone, but in my head, I was like, that was the
You
cat.
made connections.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I bet you the cat was just like, hey, lady, like, what's going on?
Looking around.
So that was the first night, right? And again, I didn't tell anyone about that the first night and didn't really, I just was like, oh, how interesting. Like, oh, that'd be funny if that's what that was that happened. So the next night, we end up, I'm pretty sure this was either the next consecutive night or 2 nights later, but we end up back at the same bar.
Mhm.
And this time I was sitting in this seat so there's like the main bar area, and then there's a doorway, and then there's this cave looking back room, like literally looks like a cave. Like they made it so that the walls were plastered to look
Oh,
rocky and brown and all that. And I'm sitting in a chair nearly in between those two spaces with my back to the cave. And, I'm kind of looking at the bar and watching everyone do whatever it is they're doing. And I don't know, I was like sitting there for maybe like 10 or 15 minutes. And I think we were talking about getting ready to leave. And it was a real cave. Hey, Polly, what's up? Polly knows. So behind, like, the doorway's right here, basically. Or wait, well, I'm trying to like read in my head. I was like sitting like this, and the doorway's here. So, like, basically, what happened is as I'm sitting there, I felt again the same kind of brushing movement.
Okay.
Right. But this time it was up here on my shoulder. So it was like this physical, like, stickiness, just like went like this towards my shoulder. And then a few seconds later, I felt like 3 fingers like this, like poke my side.
Oh, okay.
Like, so it was the brush and then this 3-fingered thing.
So not the cat this time.
I was done. I'm like, that was a thing that touched me. There was something here. And it wasn't just like that moment, right? Like after feeling that feeling, I felt this feeling that I'd never really felt before. It was as if the entity or whatever it was that touched me was like attached. Like there was something connected to me. And it didn't feel malicious. Didn't feel like, it was scary, but I didn't feel like it was anything that meant me harm or wanted to hurt me or anything like that. It just felt sticky is the easiest way to put it to me. Like as if there was just like, I mean, I don't watch a lot of ghost things, but what I could think is like, like ectoplasm or something, whatever it was had rubbed up against me and left its impression like on me. And I felt that for probably as we left and walked away from there, it probably took a good solid half an hour for that feeling to finally subside. Like I legit felt haunted for like 30 minutes. Like there was a thing like there with me. Like it was intense. And then not until after this fact, because he had told me the bar was haunted, but I didn't know, wasn't like to what extent, or I didn't look into it at all. And then afterwards, I ended up looking up this bar, finding out the history of it being haunted and the fact that it's that back room. It was the cave. That's the haunted part. So I think
the confirmation there.
Yeah. I was like, whatever that was like trying to get me to go back into the cave.
Oh, shoot. But you didn't go back in.
No.
Okay.
No. And I haven't gone back since. So,
so you're going to be avoiding this place basically.
I don't, it wasn't the best bar in the world. I like the pinball, but I don't need to go back there.
Okay. Yeah. Wasn't it not enough to bring you back?
No.
So can I ask you, when you did feel it attached to you for the half hour, did you feel anything else? Were you anxious, or were you kind of able to determine what the presence was? I don't know. Did you get any other information from it?
No, I mean, if anything, it was a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of just uneasiness, right? Like I just felt like, I was like, whatever that was trying to, I felt like it was trying to get my attention.
Okay.
Like it just was like, it had called out to me specifically, apparently, needed me to know that it was there. But other than that, like, I didn't, in retrospect, part of me kind of wishes I would have like been more in tune and like, dialed into it or whatever. But I was kind of so creeped out by the fact that it had just happened and that I was still feeling this like residual something, I was like, oh yeah, we're just going to walk and I'm going to breathe and everything's going to be fine. And there wasn't a specific real moment. I think that, it felt like it was gone. It was just like it just lingered for a little while. And then eventually like just kind of that feeling just dissipated and I was fine. But yeah,
it's interesting because, you do wonder if you were to feed into it, because, these things, you said it didn't feel malicious, but maybe it was posing as non-malicious. So sometimes you wonder what would happen if you did feed into it, if you did give it that attention, if you did go back to where it wanted you to. So it seemed like that was a good way to handle it. Like, I am not going to play into what you want. I'm just going to go about, as creeped out as I am, I'm going to go about my night and roll with it. And so because you said it left after half an hour, when you got home, you didn't notice anything weird at home, or
No.
okay.
Yeah, that was really the end of it, and like that, that was the extent of feeling that feeling. But that's definitely the first time, and like I said, I feel like it was specifically drawn to me because I am an empathic like
Mhm,
I
mhm,
feel feels, right? Like I can read people. I feel like, when I'm in a room with someone, I can kind of feel what it is that they're vibing on, or like what kind of vibe they're giving off, right? So
yeah,
for it to be a tactile thing, right, and not a vision, I didn't see
yeah,
anything, I didn't hear anything, it was tactile.
yeah.
Yeah, so that made
Not
sense
just
to
the
me.
feeling, yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty significant, I'd say. I had something like that happen once in an open house. I was in the basement and I felt something touch my back, and I still don't know. I don't know if it was my clothing, because I just got out. I didn't give it any attention, and but and it does, it's interesting. It kind of sticks in your mind and it makes you wonder, man. But the fact that these three fingers, brushed up against you and was trying to get your attention, you felt that it was trying to draw you back in that room. Like I'm really fascinated by that. And it's interesting because Hex Glenn brings up a point that it's interesting about three fingers.
Yeah, I
And,
thought that was interesting too.
and
Like very distinctly. Like it wasn't a whole hand, it
yeah,
wasn't two fingers, it was very distinctly three spots. Like boop boop boop.
yeah. And it's interesting because, like, if you were to brush up against a person, usually if somebody brushes their hand against you, I mean, for me, I can't feel how many fingers went by, because usually fingers are close together. So it's interesting that, like you said, it was so distinct that you felt
Yeah, because
every bit.
it was two feelings the second time. It was one brush up against,
Mhm.
and then after that, the three fingers like on my side right here.
Mm,
So it
okay.
was like here against my shoulder, and then the three like fingers
Yeah,
or points or
yeah.
something up
So,
against my side.
and I
And like
think
that
that,
was the creepiest part, was the that three like because I didn't, because I felt the first thing, and that was similar to what I had felt the night before. But then that second thing, man, like that was I think that's what creeped me out the most, and what kind of like gave it that lingering feeling, was
mhm,
that it wasn't just a brushing by, it was like a hey, like I'm
yeah,
here kind of thing.
yeah. Oh no, for sure. And that caught my attention because first of all, my brain goes to, not that I'm exactly relating it to aliens, but I always think of like alien, long
Yeah.
alien fingers. I don't know if that popped into your
A
head.
little bit, no, for sure.
Right? So you
Yeah.
wonder because there is a belief that, these things are connected in the spiritual world, that they are on the same side, or that they are involved with each other, because there are people that go out, UFO hunting, hunting, and will bring back paranormal entities to their home. Like there seems to be
Ooh.
some sort of connection there.
I've never thought about that or made that kind of connection. Like that makes a lot of sense, but
Yeah, it totally does. And I heard about that from a researcher up here in a huge hotspot we have, that it was like a common thing. They would go out hunting and all of a sudden they were having a haunting in their house and they believe that they brought something back. And I
wow.
guess the other thing that jumps out to me about the three is, I do come from a Christian background. So there's a belief when it comes to demonic entities that they do things in three because they're trying to mock the Trinity too.
Ooh.
So it's
Yeah.
always interesting when you see the three, and you kind of think and you investigate, okay, what's happening here? What kind of entities here? What kind of deception is taking place? So, my mind is going to many areas with this. And Make It Miriam said, good thing that it didn't attach to you, because some spirits, yeah, attach to people and follow them everywhere. Yeah,
Yeah.
can you imagine? Yeah, so like you wonder, on one hand, you're like, should I kind of have paid it more attention? But on the other hand, you're like, I guess I dodged a bullet. I mean, that's how I would view it. Didn't
Yeah.
bring anything back with you.
Absolutely. I think that's part of why I was so keen to the fact that I could feel it still after the experience, because
Mm,
I also grew up in with a Christian background, and
mhm.
like I've heard stories about that, especially within that realm,
Yeah,
like demonic spirits, like just following people around or attaching to them, or, like being like, you know, m- messing with people, right? Like a little bit more than, what you think is about to happen. And I didn't really go there with it in my mind,
yeah.
right? But I'm sure that kind of thought like passed through me, because
Mhm.
it, it was really disconcerting. Like, I mean, at first I didn't really tell anyone, like, I can't remember if Polly remembers, cause he was there. Like, I remember telling someone finally when we were walking back. Like it wasn't until we were walking back on our way back to the house that I finally was like, y'all, like, I think it took until I felt the presence leave, right? Until I was like sure that I was like okay and I was fine and I was like alone.
Yeah,
Am I
you
alone in
were
this
not good.
body? Like,
Yeah, up
yeah.
to that
And then
point.
finally able to breathe and like say to someone, like, I think I just got haunted. Like, I think that just happened.
Now, did anyone you were with, like, get any feelings in there or no? So not even just, like, a creepy feeling, nothing?
Yeah. I mean, not that I remember. I mean, I don't like Polly would, yeah, we were on the railroad tracks, we were walking back. But yeah, Polly, I don't think if you think of anything, let me know that I missed, or if anyone like I know Exploring Idaho, who was our host there, he's the one who brought up that it had been haunted, but he doesn't really, I don't think he really believes
Mhm.
in that kind of stuff, so I don't think he'd had any, or at least he told me for sure that he hadn't had any of his own experiences,
Yeah.
because I think we had talked about that the night before. And like that I got brought up at some point somehow. And yeah, just it was just so surreal, really, just like to feel after like being someone who's been, again, no, definitely not as like far down the rabbit hole, like, watching stories about it or like learning about it,
Mhm.
but also not someone to say otherwise, right? Like
Yeah.
I'm definitely a believer. So
Yeah, yeah. You weren't, like, yeah, against it. You weren't discounting it. You were open to the idea, but you just hadn't had your own experience yet,
right.
basically.
Yeah.
And Um, ooh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I guess this is why I have to have a notepad next to me, and I didn't do that.
That's
So,
okay.
like, everything you say, like, I wanna ask another bunch of questions. But, yeah, so I guess, just to kind of segue into the UFO topic, right now, you're pretty open with the idea that not the idea, with the fact that you're traveling the country, you're living on a bus, which is so cool. So you're living that portable mobile life, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that brings you through a lot of interesting areas, like a lot of empty areas, a lot of big sky areas. Have you like taken note of anything odd you've seen in the sky, or has there been that opportunity yet while you're out there?
I don't think on this tour so far I have.
Mhm.
Yeah, I definitely in the past have seen things
Oh,
like,
okay.
yeah, there have been, I mean, that's something that I've seen and experienced definitely more than the like paranormal in terms of
Mhm.
ghosts, like, or spirits or anything. Ah, actually maybe a little bit of both, because like now that I'm thinking back, like other than this like real tactile experience, like I said, I've had the the feeling of a presence, right? Like
Mhm.
thinking to myself something had been there before. There was some kind of something like maybe walking, back and forth,
Yeah,
like not being able to see it physically or like feel it physically, but just like
yeah,
having
but
that,
you know that it's
that,
there.
yeah. But UFO wise, man, I've seen at night and I've seen during the day, I'd say at least 4 or 5 times UFO unidentified objects that
Yeah.
I could not explain, couldn't tell you. Like one time I was on a plane and I saw an orb, like it was like rainbow colored and like moving at, I couldn't
Oh,
explain
sure.
how or why the way it moved. I was like, that was something.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know yeah, so I've seen things probably like 2 or 3 times during the
Mhm,
day, and usually they're like white or iridescent in the
mhm,
day, and then at night I've seen something maybe like, again, 2 or 3 times, and usually at night I feel like what I'm seeing is like something that's either glass or super reflective and triangular,
mhm.
like that's just like, I don't know, something like this that like it's because it almost looks like the sky, but it doesn't quite look like the sky.
It's trying to blend, but it's not happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely have seen things like that before, but like again, this trip I honestly haven't had much time up until recently. I've
Yeah.
had a lot of just like different things happening and going on where I haven't been able to explore as much, or
Mhm,
take my time and like look up at the sky and the stars. That's one of my favorite things to do, is stargaze.
mhm.
So I think that's part of why I feel like I've seen those things before, because I'm such a dreamy person, I'm just always like gazing off into the clouds, like cloud watching and,
Yeah.
watching the stars and things like that. So hopefully now that the bus has been fixed and like taken care of, and mechanically everything's working out really well, and I have another great Hexagon friend who's looking at it in terms of helping me make sure all my electrical is taken care of right now. So after the Chicago and New York events, because I'm not driving the bus to New York, I'm going to be flying in and out of Chicago for that, and then I'll be driving from Chicago to Tennessee. I think Nashville's the next stop after the New York stop. And that'll be like, once I'm on the road again, like I'll be have a lot more time to like just like take my time, chill out a little bit more, like explore the skies, and hopefully see something interesting and come back and tell you. Because
Oh yeah, I mean that's certainly interesting, and I think also the other thing that I always wonder about is, you said it looks like the sky, but not exactly. It kind of looks different. So you would think whatever these entities are, they're so sophisticated where they can kind of cloak something, but not quite. I don't believe that they can't cloak all the way if they can do everything else that they're doing. I'm like, they want to be seen when they do that,
Oh, yeah.
but let's not make it 100% obvious. But here, let's let we're here.
Yeah. Do you listen to I think it's called WF, like the Y files maybe? I forget
Someone
the
was
guy's
telling me
name.
about that, but I haven't it's a podcast?
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Okay.
it's a they do a video, like it's a YouTube show, or it's like a streaming show, but
Okay.
I don't think they do it live. I think it's just like
Alright.
they pre-record the shows
Yeah.
for the most part. But I just listened to one, and he goes over the story of this guy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Mr. Cold,
I don't think so.
Ignatius or Ignis Cold or something like that. It's an alien story
Mhm.
that by this point most people think it's not true. In fact, the guy I think it's WF, like the guy that brings it up, he tells you the whole story and you feel like it's super believable, and then at the end of it he goes into all the reasons why it's probably not right, and like
Okay.
debunks the things. So
Yeah.
that's what I really love about that show, is that he will go into all these paranormal and alien, like all these different stories. Like, you'd love this. You should definitely
Oh,
check it
no,
out.
it sounds definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Right
And
up my alley.
was that?
It sounds, yeah, right up my alley. I'm like,
Yeah, no,
okay,
you
and I
definitely
like
enjoy
this.
it. Because he does a really great job of explaining everything, and like, making it like seem like, oh yes, this is absolutely true. And then at the end, he doesn't always debunk everything, but he'll always show you the other side.
Okay.
And be like, okay, this is why we think yes, this is why we think no, make up your own mind.
Yeah.
But that story, man, uh it's trippy, because he talks about how the alien, and you're talking about how, the reason I brought this up is because you talk about them wanting us to know,
Yeah.
right? And that was the point of this alien's appearance, right?
Okay.
He
Yeah.
told the person that he contacted, don't be afraid. Why are you afraid? You don't need to be afraid. Like, we're here. And he's connected to the Grinning Man, which I guess is another alien story.
Okay.
So around the same time. But basically they spoke telepathically, and it was just these like grinning aliens that like 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 have this like crazy
Yeah.
grin on their face, and you can
Uh-huh.
hear them through their minds. But the gist of it was that he believed the alien, Mr.
Mhm.
Cold, wanted the people of Earth to know that aliens were real and they were there, and that we shouldn't have fear of them.
Okay.
So yeah, that made me think of that whole story, and how I really, especially with everything that's coming out right now, like all
Oh
of
my
these
gosh.
different whistleblowers coming forward,
Yeah.
all these people who have experienced things and seen things in Area 51, and like these guys on their deathbed, like just putting it out there, like, hey, yeah, this is real, like this has happened, and people talking about the size of aliens from like 36 inches long to
Mhm.
7 feet tall, like all these different species.
Oh,
They're,
it's
they're
wild.
real. It's come
Oh,
on.
oh, yeah, and we're definitely coming into some sort of strange time, and it's like, okay, is it a time of, like, legit disclosure? Is it a time that they want us to think it's disclosure, and they're guiding
Mm.
us to thinking into a certain way? Like, is it something more spiritual? Is it a spiritual war happening? Is it a seed war, which kind of goes back to the reptilian on planes things, human hybridization, and it's wild because basically something's going on.
Yeah.
We just don't know what aspect it is. And okay, some of us are set on, what we think that aspect of it is. Like, I tend to take that Nephilim belief and put that into the alien narrative. But then, it's like, okay, that gives you one aspect of it, but it still doesn't, there's still so much other mystery to it. What are their plans? What are they plotting? We have an idea, we might have an idea of what their end goal is, but what are they doing in the in between? Are they
Yeah.
building up a reptilian army, the army of the dragon? It's really wild. Like when you start going down, like there's 100, thousands of different rabbit holes for it. But basically, it's like where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on, and it does seem very real. And it's like, okay, is it going to be used against us, the information? Are they lying to kind of hurt us into a certain way of thinking, like we've been, like what has been happening the past few years?
Right.
So it's I guess really the thing is I think that's why it's just good to be vigilant, to be understanding and open to what's going on. Just so, like, if you have
keep your mind open.
yeah, because if you have some sort of understanding, then the powers that be can't really use this stuff against you.
Right.
Yeah, unless it's a little too conspiracy-ish. But yeah, but basically, just to come back to it, yeah, there's too much news out there. There's something's brewing. And do you think it's gonna like all come to a head soon? Or
Man, I don't know. Like I feel like you were saying, it's going to be interesting to see how this information is used.
yeah.
Because I do feel like and maybe this is just also, I'm hopeful, right?
Mhm.
That there is a big uncovering of a lot of what they've been hiding for the last 50, 60
Yeah.
years, in terms of, government information and all these documents where everything's blacked out and all this stuff is redacted, and you can see parts of the information but not all of the information. And that's what trips me out the most, is that there are files and places that like we hear about or like have little glimpses into, but aren't able to know the whole story, or we're not being told the true story, or what everything, how it's all connected, right?
Yeah.
Like part of me is worried that they're going to use that narrative to distract us, right? Because
Mhm.
there's other shit going on that they don't want
Right.
us to know about or
Oh,
hear about or think about, and that's already happening, right? That
oh,
already
yeah.
happens all the time. Like this this story, I just lost my mind the other day about the story about the cocaine in the White House. I was like, how is this news? How is that
I know, it's
fucking
like,
news? I'm
isn't
sorry.
that
I don't
always in the White House, right?
Yeah, like I just was like, okay, what else is going on that this all of a sudden is news? Like, of course there's cocaine in the White House. Like, come on.
That's all they do. That's their diet.
No, it was ridiculous to me. I
Yeah.
just like, I can't understand, like, how long are people gonna just have the wool over their eyes and not see that the media is being controlled? Like, and we're being told all these different narratives. And I saw a really great post today. I think Wales Only probably reposted this, but it was basically something to the extent of, until you realize that both sides of the narrative
Mm,
are being told to you,
yeah.
right, on purpose, right? Like, it doesn't matter what channel you're watching on that TV, y'all. It's specifically being put out there to mind control you, I believe,
Oh,
and like make
100%.
you think things that,
Yeah.
like to distract you. Really,
Oh,
it's just
yeah.
a big distraction.
Definitely, to distract you, and also to, like, I don't know what the best word is, to dishearten you, like to
Mhm.
kind of,
Fear, to instill fear.
yeah, fear. Yeah, that really is, yeah, really is what it is. I mean, and I forget, somebody had kind of like, when people break down the words like television tell lies,
Uh-huh.
or something like that. And I'm like, really, really truly is, because you see people who are watching channels who they think, is on their side, but yet they're still getting depressed when they're watching that. They still feel like everything is dark and nothing, good is ever going to happen. It's the end of the world. And it's like, no, just shut off the news. You'll feel way better. I saw, or somebody was tweeting that 24-hour news is the worst thing that has ever happened to us. And I think so, because it's also like promoting a laziness. Like, don't even look into anything. We're gonna feed it to you. Here it is. Here's your diet. This is what we want you to feel. This is what we want you to think.
Yeah,
And
I was listening last night real quick to it was
yeah.
either Alan Watts or Ram Dass, and he was actually just going on about that topic because he was kind of talking about drugs,
Mhm.
and he was like, well, imagine if there was a drug that like hundreds of people were just on for 5 to 6 hours a day. And no. It's like, yeah, it's called television.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, like people don't think about it that way. And
Yeah.
yeah, you're not going to use the same treatment for television as you would for heroin or cocaine or,
Mhm.
anything like that. But it is just as addicting, and I
Yeah.
think just as detrimental to our health and well-being.
Oh, yeah, it's like a socially acceptable drug,
Yeah.
for all ages.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you even see the stuff that, little kids are watching, and they're just so entranced by it. It's like,
That breaks
okay.
my heart. Like seeing kids that are like
Mhm,
younger than, younger. I'm not a parent yet. Like I
mhm.
still maybe want to go down that path, but like, I just can't imagine giving a child anywhere under the age of 5 a phone or a
Oh
tablet.
my
Like,
gosh.
I mean, probably even older than that. But like, I just like when I see these little babies just with the screens in their faces, like, and I hear so many people like, oh, well, it's just the way of the world. And it's,
Yeah,
it just keeps them happy. And well, you had TV when you were, it's just what the fuck excuses? Like, let
yeah,
your child have their own imagination and
yeah.
like see their own colors and come up with their own visions. Like,
Oh, yeah.
it
I
breaks
mean,
my
and
heart.
it was different. It was different when we were little. We're around the same age.
Yeah.
And like, TV, yeah, we watched it, but it
Mhm.
wasn't like all consuming, like
Right.
having a tablet in your hand. You watched Muppet Babies and then you played outside.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah.
And honestly, in terms of building imagination, remember that show talked about imagination. So it was, it was always promoting that type of creative
Yep.
imaginative play. So like the shows were less stimulating. It was just a different type of all that. And it's funny because I have like, and hopefully they haven't degraded, but I have like a whole box of like kids VHSs that I'm saving.
Nice.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, when I have kids, forget streaming. They're not going to have access to the Roku. It's going to be like, this is how you use a VHS, cassette player.
Yes.
Um, and because like you were saying, the tablet in hand is so scary because first of all, you don't know what they're accessing. But even if you think that, okay, you gave your kid access to some safe streaming, there's always these creepy things that pop up, like that
Yeah.
AI generated cartoons that kids are watching that are just weird and nonsensical. And and that's a whole other thing. What is AI? Is there something dark behind it, a dark entity
Ooh.
pretending to be AI? And then what are they feeding into, to your kids' minds? So I mean, it's definitely a scary world, and it's full of distraction, but also, yeah, let's get you on this drug from the get-go,
Right.
so yeah, so that you will never be able to break yourself of it because that is all you've ever known.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's and also I wanted to just hop back to the whole distraction thing of what's going on. Did you hear when that whole submarine thing happened that they had ended up passing like lab grown meat, like approving it for human consumption or something?
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I did hear
Mhm.
about that happening around the same
Yeah.
time, but I didn't make the connection.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what people were saying. I haven't, dove into it too much, but I saw enough people mentioning it where it seems like that really did pass. It really was a thing. Um,
I think that's true because I saw an article speaking out against it because it was like USDA or whatever passes the lab grown meat despite it causing like super tumors in
oh gosh.
humans.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
didn't read the article. I didn't like I just,
Yeah.
kind of saw that and scrolled by it and was just like, holy shit, like here we go.
It's
Because I
insane.
definitely at one point, it was probably years ago, was on the side of thinking that was a good thing because
Yeah.
I've been vegetarian and vegan on and off all my life. I'm
Mhm.
not at all right now, but and I thought, well, if there's some way that they can just like recreate with the genes the same kind of meat and not have to kill the animals, I was like, that should be fine, right? Like
Well, in
I
theory,
didn't
it
put,
sounds cool,
yeah, I didn't
right?
put too
Yeah.
much stock into it or whatever, but like, I don't know, man. Like having been on a farm and lived on a farm and slaughtered my own chickens for food,
Mhm.
like there's something about that process. There's something about the like, same thing as growing a vegetable, right? Like putting that seed in the ground, like raising that chick from a baby, taking care of it, and
Yeah.
then at the end of its life, thanking it for its life and
Mhm.
slaughtering it and processing it and eating it. Like
Yeah.
delicious, wonderful, happy bird. I used to be, I'm a lot less strict about this right now in my diet, and I want to kind of dial that back and get back to it. But I used to say that I was a consciousitarian. I didn't
Mhm.
want to eat meat. I didn't want to eat sad meat. I don't
Okay.
want to eat meat that's been raised in the dark, force fed its whole life
Mhm.
and just like not given a chance to, be happy and live a happy, normal life, right? Like if I slaughtered it, a friend slaughtered it, or like I got to go, I've never been hunting, but that's something I'd like to do it,
Mhm.
especially as, we get into this kind of world where it's like, who the heck knows? Like you did a great show on prepping, like I think maybe right before, or like maybe not right before you went offline,
Yeah.
but like there was a show that you did and I ate that up, man. I want to watch it again because
Oh, I
I think it
appreciate
was a
that. Thank you.
series. I think you did more than one on it. And like, it was like just all the little hints that you had and all those little tips, like that got me all riled up because I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
thank
man,
you.
like,
That makes me so
like,
happy.
yeah. I was like, I want to get like, there was like some kind of meal plan stuff that you talked about. And then like, for some reason that just made me think about, yeah, I'd love to know how to hunt my
Mhm.
own food. Like, I think that's such a great skill to have because who knows when we're going to need it.
It's true. Yeah, it's so true. And like, if you could handle that whole slaughtering your own meat, like I think that's awesome because I always say that the best chicken salad I ever had came from chickens raised on my friend's homestead. Amazing. You taste the difference in a happy animal. And
Yep.
it's like, okay, it's still sad, but it's almost like a one-to-one thing. It's not a whole warehouse of animals being treated terribly. Like these are just a few animals grown for your own family's consumption, and they live the happy life and everything. And even though I can't handle doing that, I totally think that that is the way to do it. And also, what's in that meat,
Yep.
how it's raised. I mean, especially now with the way our food supply is poisoned. Like I've been vegan, but I came back to eating meat, and I feel good when I have animal products in my system. I know that's
Mhm.
not a popular thing to say, but the thing that makes me pull back is like the poisoning of everything. And it's so much easier to really make meat just filled with toxins and everything
Yeah.
than plants. So it's kind of like, okay, even though I don't want to raise my own, I want to be very conscious about where I'm sourcing my animal products from,
Yes.
because it's like, okay, well, I know we're getting poisoned in every other way, through our air, through our water, but at least if I can diminish it a little bit and say, you're not going to get me like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think it's that's awesome. I do love seeing that. And even for people that can't handle that type of you know slaughtering and your own animal, I think being able to raise chickens or raise ducks,
Mhm.
and at least be able to get those nutrients that way, and you still have them kind of like a pet, and you get
Mhm.
your eggs, yeah, which is nature's multivitamin, or even
Oh,
just growing
these
your
are the
own
best.
garden. I mean, everything just
Yeah.
is way better that way. Or
That's
or
what I miss so much on tour. It's just like having my own space to grow food. Like that
Mhm,
was every place I've lived for the last 10 years. I've had some kind of garden or
mhm,
greenhouse or something. And so that is for sure like what I miss the most about, having a mobile life, which I also love. But, you know, if I wasn't on tour, I'd probably be parked somewhere where there's a
mhm.
community garden or something that I could participate in that way, because that's just so vital to my existence, right? Like I do as best as I can. And I wanted to bring up a point. You said, we're being poisoned in so many ways, and it's so hard sometimes to fight that, right? Or to mitigate the damage.
Yeah.
Because some people are just going to have this attitude of, oh, well, fuck it. Like I can't
Mhm.
control any of this, like, so why even worry? But I feel like we have the ability to, at the very least, diminish, right? Like the amount of toxins that we
Yeah.
do put into our bodies. Yeah, we can't control it all. You're not always going to be able to know, from a restaurant, like where this meat came from, or what it is you're eating, or if it's truly organic. And then I've even heard things about, even if it's organic, like you don't know that that's the most nutrient dense food that you can
Yeah.
get,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
Because just
it's
'cause
like,
something's organic doesn't mean that they're not raised in a factory.
yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. And I just, Hexglen made a good point here. Filter your water, right? I think that that's probably one of the biggest things that you can do. And one of the easy, I have a Berkey in the bus,
Oh,
so
that's
that's like
awesome.
one of the number one
Yeah.
things that I do. I do filter my water everywhere I go, and I drink it as
Yeah.
purely as possible.
No, and it's so true, because things that even just seem like small steps really make a huge difference. Like even drinking out of glass instead of drinking out
Mm.
of plastic.
Hmm.
Um, you know, putting a better air filter in your home or in your car, pay $10 extra for the filter that's a little nicer, that
Yeah.
type of thing. Those things make such a huge difference. But I think they want us to feel helpless. So that we go whatever, because that makes us an easier target.
Mhm.
The thing about these wildfires, wi- it's not really like an encouraged thing to filter your air, to have air filters. It's just
Right.
like, okay, just don't go outside. All this stuff still seeps into your house. There's still something weird because, okay, if it was biomass, legit biomass, okay, not a big deal. It passes. But because people are saying, like, I smell things like burning tires, I smell things like, have you heard about that?
No.
No? Okay, so, like, when New York got hit with, like, that original, thing, I guess in the beginning of June, that original big cloud,
Yeah.
when you were outside, it smelled like burning biomass. So I was like, I wasn't too worried because 'cause I'm like, "It's no different than being around a bunch of campfires.
Yeah.
It's fine." But then when we had that second wave, when it was hitting places like, Chicago, Indianapolis, that area, people were like, doesn't smell right. Doesn't smell like biomass. It smells like chemicals. It smells like this. It smells like that." Right.
Wow.
And it's interesting because, if the powers that be were really concerned about your health, it wouldn't be like, oh, just stay inside and just limit your activity. It would be like, no, here's what you can do. Maybe everybody should have a filter. Everybody should have this and have that. There's no encouraging of that because it's just, I feel like they want people to give up. They just
Yeah.
want it to be like, ah,
Absolutely. No,
yeah,
it's just like the last, the C word for the last few years, like all that
oh, yeah.
craziness, Like, no, let's not talk about eating healthy or improving your gut biome or any
Mhm.
of those things. No, just,
But working out, no, let's
yeah.
shut down the gym.
Yeah. Don't touch people. Put a mask on. Like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
What?
It's like, oh yeah, I know that the side says that, it doesn't really help with prevention or spreading, but put this chemically laden mask on your face anyway. It's gonna be wonderful for you. And now that they're finding, what are they finding now? Microplastics in people's lungs, like
Oh,
amounts that have never been there before. Like, no wonder everybody was encouraged to put on a mask. That type of thing. And shutting down the gyms. Well, gyms
mm-hmm.
are known to boost your immunity if you're working out. So there's always the opposite. Almost like you have to look at everything they tell you to do and do the opposite.
Yep.
Right? That's the best way
Pretty
to handle things.
much.
Yeah. Gosh, what a world we live in. But it's nice to be able to talk to people on the same page that get it?
Yeah. That's one of the beautiful things that I found about this community is like I didn't know how many like-minded people
Mhm,
would be in this space. Like I had no clue when I came into crypto via Hex
mhm,
that the Hex Guild, right? The Hex foodies, they exist, right? And then the whole
mhm.
drum and bass community that's huge. All the musicians here, right? And like, you know, people that are on the same wavelength as us, like, just like open-minded individuals, like people that aren't just going to take whatever is being told at face value. And I guess it makes sense, in hindsight when I think about it, because we're on the edge, right? We're on the cutting edge of technology here,
Yeah.
right? And what we have within the, crypto sphere in terms of DeFi and Hex and Pulse Chain and what we believe in as, as a financial freedom, right?
Mhm.
I think that kind of lends itself already
Oh, yeah.
to be
Yeah.
people being a little more open-minded and a little more willing to talk about the difficult topics or the topics that other people don't want to talk about. So I love that you do this show again because like, it's
Thank you.
needed. Like people I think are hungry for these
Mhm,
kinds of conversations and to know more about this kind of stuff, whether they know it or not.
mhm.
So I'm hopeful that like, this will bring a little more spice to to life in general because there really is so much out there that we don't know. We don't know what we don't know,
Yeah.
right? Like there's such a crazy like
Mhm,
amount of info, and there's so much being flooded into us. You brought up AI earlier.
mhm.
That makes me think about, yeah, like when I see a news story, it always makes me just like like I wonder, like, is this story just being repeated by some kind of AI bot over and over again on all of these websites,
Yeah.
right? Like is this real news? Like, what is real? What is
Oh
real
yeah.
anymore?
Have you ever seen that video where they start like matching up everything all the local news say as if they're operating on the same script? And it like legit, it's not even like, okay, they're just kind of like variations of each other. Like it's the same thing. And
Yep.
we're always like kind of led to believe that all of these entities are
They're all
operating
independent news sources.
yeah. It's like, no, absolutely not. There's something going on here and it's intentional. And it really is important to, yeah, pull yourself out of this, pull your kids out of this. And okay, we do like our entertainment. We do like certain things. The internet is great. Okay, but at least be mindful of what you're consuming. Like think about like the way it makes you feel. That type of thing. Like, you know that feelings of like if you're watching a movie or you're watching a TV show and it just changes the way you feel, that type of thing. I don't
Yeah.
know, it does something to you. It's like same thing with certain music. Like people need to be mindful of what's happening, use their discernment and be like, you know what? Absolutely not. Let me step away from this. There's a reason. There's some sort of programming that's happening there. It's leading me down a certain path. But I guess, NPC is the way that they want us to be. We're easier to control.
Yeah, man. And it breaks my heart because I have a lot of family that are in that mindset,
Mm,
right? Like I
mm,
hate that my mom just like she, I get it. Like a mom's going to worry, right? Like
yeah,
I'm out on the road, I'm traveling from town to town, but I'm like she constantly watches the news
mm,
and,
mm,
I don't remember what city I was driving through, but she was just like, "Well, just be careful. There's been a murderer and this that and the other thing." I'm like, "Mom, they're all over the place." I
mhm.
have been doing this for years. Like I've been driving around alone as a female from state to state for the last like 10 years probably in different variations, right? Like I
Mhm.
had a job that had me driving all over the place at all hours of the night, like doing all kinds of stuff, and then I lived in a van last summer and I'm in the bus. Like I'm no stranger to this kind of
Yeah.
travel and this kind of lifestyle, right? So it's comfortable to me. I'm fine. Like I really have very rarely, if ever, felt my life has been in
Mhm.
jeopardy. Like I've never felt that. There's been a couple places I've been that I felt sketched and I left, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh,
You
I'm not going
listen
to
to your
stay here
gut.
tonight. Yeah, but there's never been a time, where and thank goodness, right? Because I know that there's crazy stories out there about that, but again, that's the narrative that people are being told, so you
Mhm.
don't go out and live this kind of free lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
Like you're being force fed this narrative of stay in your home and sit and watch your TV.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what you
Yeah.
should do.
Stay in the matrix, for
Yeah.
lack of a better term.
Hmm.
And it's interesting when, you're talking about fear mongering to keep you in your box, to keep you in your home. Do you think that also kind of plays into the whole 15-minute city thing, the Agenda 20, what is it? Agenda 2020, Agenda 2030?
Ooh, tell me about this. I don't know that
Oh,
I know
you're not
about this.
familiar? Okay, with like the whole Great Reset things. Are you familiar with the WEF and the Great Reset?
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. Like I've heard, I think I learned about that a long
Yeah.
time ago, like that general idea. And then recently have seen a little bit of more like news and chatter about it, but I haven't really paid attention to it.
Okay. So it's like, the WEF or like the all the people that get together from around the world because they want to rule us basically and tell us what to do, but they present it as, oh, we're doing wonderful things for the world, wonderful things for the environment. We're going to change lives. You will own nothing and you will be happy.
Right.
So that's kind of, the great reset idea. So which is like slowly turning into the 15-minute city things. Oh, everybody should live in small walkable communities. Okay, cool. Westchester County, the suburb I live in, is that type of thing, right? But I put myself here willingly, and I like it, and I'm allowed to leave. What they want to do is, okay, you are bound to staying in this area, and if you leave too many times, then we're gonna fine you. You're gonna have to start paying, certain things, and this
Didn't
is,
they start doing that somewhere
they did, yeah. Some
in
places in
Europe?
Europe, I think Oxford might have been one of them, or they wanted to roll it out, and slowly it's being rolled out in different ways.
Yeah, I don't like
Like,
that.
you wonder, yeah, because that's our human instinct to react like, no, 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 I don't like being boxed in. Okay, yes, I might live in that situation just because of the area I live in, but I like that I have the freedom to come and go as I please. So, our instinct as a human is like, nope, claustrophobic. I don't want to be trapped. But you wonder if the kind of the news narrative, the fear of leaving your area is the way they're going to make people agree with that. Oh, it's safer. It's safer. Stay home, and then people will be in their box and they'll be too anxious to leave it. So you kind of like look at that, and it's like, wow, you really see how media narrative plays into fear, which makes people more compliant for these absolutely ridiculous things. But all of a sudden they'll be like, oh, that's perfect. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, government.
Oh, I
Yeah.
don't like it. But I see both sides of it for
You
sure.
like to
Like,
see how it's all, yeah, at play.
yeah.
Or just slowly, it's like, because again, it seems so far-fetched, but you see how people are just playing right into their hands. um so Brian says, I was in downtown Phoenix today, and many of the side streets are now half bike path. Makes traffic crazy. Oh my gosh, it's so I mean, okay, I understand that people on bikes need safe places to go, but you really see it like completely now. It's getting bigger. They're kind of discouraging cars. Like I was in Toronto last week, and yeah, some of these bike paths got really annoying to navigate, and it's like they're trying to make it obnoxious, all these governments, so that you go, you know what, forget it, let me do public transport, let me get on a bike. It's so annoying to drive now. Half of the road is for bikes. So you see how slowly they're like doing it also just through annoying us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a little too stubborn for that. I like the freedom of my car.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like I told the story, I was telling the story about the fact that when I was a baby, and I think this is part of the reason I feel so comfortable being a gypsy and like having this mobile lifestyle. I definitely after this want to put roots down for a little bit because I'm ready for that.
Need a break.
But my mom, when I was a baby, the only way she would get me to stop crying sometimes would she put me in the car and drive me
Mhm.
around, and I'd
Mhm.
just like totally chill out, and then she'd bring me back home and put me to sleep or whatever. But
Yeah.
like it is freeing, right? Like that's part of why I'm so attracted to this, is because I feel that I have the freedom to go wherever it is that I want, and I
Mhm.
have my house with me, right?
Yeah.
Like to be forced to stay in the same area, and like not be able to visit friends or family or like whoever. Let's say they did that, right? And I had friends that lived like 2 provinces or areas down or cities away, that were my best friends. Like if I left 5 or 6 times and all of a sudden they're like, oh no, you can't go see your friends again. Like
Yeah.
what? Like how are you, how does that even work? How are you supposed to tell me how to live my life? No.
It's crazy. And then on top of that, then they start restricting your internet, and then you guys can't communicate. Like you really see it happening. Like, well, in France, it just happened during the riots. They're like, we're going to have an internet shutdown so that there's no communication. And I was reading the letter from the police or whoever were doing it, because apparently I didn't realize. I thought I forgot all my French. Apparently, I can still read French.
Nice.
So that was a happy surprise. But you see them and they're like, no, this isn't about your freedoms. This isn't about taking away your freedoms. This is just to guarantee the safety until now. I'm like, gee, where have we heard that narrative? And they're using it to shut down the internet, which was like an unheard of thing. But they're like, okay, it's for your good, it's for your safety, just
Mm.
for now. I'm like, okay, that's that internet switch is a bad thing. And like you said, okay, now you can't see your friends. Oh, look here, we're not going to let you communicate with it either. Oops. So then now there's no planning an overthrow if something really goes
Gosh,
wrong.
man.
Yeah, and it's wild because you see how we're herded into it, and a lot of us see it, and everyone else is like, "You're crazy. That would never happen." Oh yeah, like
Dude,
okay, yeah,
I'm telling you, like 2 or 3 years before the whole COVID thing happened,
yeah.
one of my best friends and I were having this conversation. I distinctly remember having this conversation with him. I was sitting in Laguna at the Sawdust Festival, like sitting on a bale of hay, and we start talking about this stuff. And he starts telling me about how, they're going to try and shut things down,
Mm,
and there's going to be encampments,
mhm,
and, this, that, and the other thing. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I believed him. Like I was, again, I'm an open-minded person, but in my mind, I was like, yeah, maybe like 15, 20 years down the road, I could see something like that happen.
mhm.
And not 2 years later, were we in our houses, shut down, not able to leave and talk to
Mhm.
people, meet our friends, see our families, and they, like, I think there were kind of encampments here and there, or they had
Yeah.
started talking about doing that. And I was
Oh, it
just like,
happened in
this is
Australia, the
happening.
quarantine camps. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually happening. Like I was so taken aback that it happened so quickly, and that I have, a good circle of friends in my life who have the foresight and the open-mindedness to see this, right?
Mhm,
To
mhm.
look outside of whatever narrative there is that they're speaking and be like, "Oh, no, actually this is what the actual agenda is and this is
Yeah,
what they're going to be trying to do."
yeah. oh no, but you're a conspiracy theorist if you think like that. And who wants to be friends with a conspiracy theorist? So there was also that pushing of that mindset so that people, will kind of, uh, it's kind of like this outsider thing. Oh, look at this crazy person. They're not
Yeah.
falling into it. And it's amazing because, like you said, this stuff sounded like it was years down the road. And then
Yeah.
it started happening. I mean, there was a lot of like pushback because Hochul, our governor, whatever, Comrade Hochul, whatever um, that she like wanted to like instate quarantine camps. And it, under the guise of, oh, yeah, let's quarantine people. Oh, it's for the public health and public safety. But it's like, okay, that can kind of get out of hand very quickly. I mean, that's never acceptable. But let's just say people went along with that. Okay, then where do you draw the line? It's like I'm like, okay, what can I say without without YouTube shutting me down? Okay, but you know what? So I will put it in this way. The beloved Fran Drescher. Let's use her words. So with the whole SAG thing, SAG had mandates, and Fran Drescher, the president of SAG, went along with it. And then all of a sudden she realized, and she said it out loud. She's like, she has the realization of, well, no, we can't tell people what to put in their bodies because where do you draw that line? And of course they were like, gosh, they need to get her out of SAG. Look at her. And everybody voted against her and everything. But she had that realization.
Yeah.
And it's that same thing with quarantine, where initially my county was one of the first places hit with COVID. And nope, did I say the magic word on here?
Right.
And they had forced quarantine. You can't leave your house. There's some people that are being guarded in the upper part of our county. But then again, where does that, that's a slippery slope. They're being guarded by police in this cabin so that they couldn't leave. They were some of the first cases in the county. But then it's like, oh, well, let's just move them to the camp. Then everybody be like, oh, good, public safety. You see the slippery slope. You see how fast it happens, and you see how easily people go along with these things. It's really mind blowing.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know, like I said, because I have family that's like that, so like to me, like part of it is just sad. It's like there's so many times where like I see my mom like wrestle with it, right?
Mhm.
Like on one hand, she feeds into all of it, and then on the other hand, I see these little glimpses where I'm like, better,
Yeah.
like I can tell that you
But the
don't
seed
really
is
want to
there.
be. Also, because she's religious too,
Mhm.
and so it's like she also has that faith aspect
Mhm.
that I think kind of helps give her the glimmer of hope and like lift out of the fear a little bit.
Mhm.
But man, like it just, if you are hooked on that drug, right, of television and watching the news media, it's hard to get off of that. It's hard to think that there's other sources of information outside of what you've been force fed your whole life.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It really is just a complete reprogramming of your brain so that
Yes.
you're just not an independent person anymore. It's the slow slide into NPC. And I know I use that word a lot, but I love it. It was just like when that kind of like hit the mainstream, that was the perfect way of describing these people. Because just like in a game, an NPC has their locked and loaded dialogue. They always come back in. How many people always said the same thing? It's for your safety. It's for your health. It's this and it's that, and
Yeah.
it was coming from the news. It was a force feeding. So well, I'm getting a low laptop battery at the moment. And
Okay.
so I can't because I realized that I have the wrong hub plugged in. Everything is USB-C, and I have a regular USB hub plugged in. So I'm gonna start wrapping it up. But thank you so much for being on here and for sharing
Yeah.
your stories. And do you want to just give us a little bit about what you're doing with the what is it, the Pulse Chain tour? I wanted to hear a little bit about that before we go. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
so quickly and drastically. I was having such a good conversation with you. I was enjoying that.
Yeah, no, I was, thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me a platform and having this platform again to talk about, things outside. Like that's why I appreciate other content creators who are in our ecosystem that
Mhm.
don't necessarily always talk about just the coins, because I'm on that vibe too, right? Like I rarely ever talk about crypto in general on my streams and stuff like that. It's more about promoting the community, promoting other women, especially.
Mhm.
But the Pulse Chain Tour, pulsechaintour.com, go check it out. It has been just, I think the coolest thing I got to talk about a little bit of this and a little bit of my story and what I've done in the spaces today. If y'all go to, I think, my page or Black Hexicans, you'll see the space. You can listen to it again. It was recorded. But to me, the most awesome part of this tour has just been the fact that I'm in this bus that says pulsechaintour.com on it. I see people waving out of their cars. I had some guy holding out a Pulse Chain shirt. I've had people have make me roll my window down and tell me, hey, that's awesome what you're doing. Like, oh, I love Hex and this, that, and the other thing. And then going to like being in podunk, middle of nowhere towns. I was somewhere in the middle, like between Oregon and Washington, just getting gas. And this guy walks up to me. He's like, hey, I sacrificed for PulseX. Like,
Cool.
I was just like, bro, I was just at a gas station getting gas. It has been just phenomenal. Like the getting the attention of people, and then for all of the people that I do see, right? I bet you that's like a 10th of the people that actually are on the road, or if I'm at a gas station, Googling this and looking it up and like trying to figure out what this is. I remember being at a rest stop, and because it's got the Pulse logo on it, right? It looks like a heartbeat. This older couple were like, oh, is this a medical initiative? You know, like people want to know what it is. They're super interested. I've had people think it was a rock tour, you know, musicians and stuff like that. So it's really I think I just am over the moon about the fact that it is getting the word out there. Like, as stressful as this has been for me for the last few months, and as like disheartening as it can be sometimes, because y'all, if you are in especially the Chicago area right now, spread the word. Like we want to fill these seats, right? And like at this point, like it's not as big of a turnout as we'd really hope for in Chicago. I'm sure a lot of that is just because it's a bottom of the bear market, and like a lot of people are disenchanted with crypto in general, right? So I think it's hard to get people to come out and be interested in it because so much crazy shit has happened recently. Luckily, I think we're on the tail end of that downward swing. And I think we're going to start, whether it's the bull market or just the sentiment around crypto in general, right? Like I think that's coming back. But so Chicago's next weekend. It's going to be the 22nd. New York is after that. Are you coming to New York?
I don't know. I guess I'll have to talk to you about that.
Yeah, for sure. That's going to be August 12th. I believe it's August 12th. It's going to be in Brooklyn. So that'll be, I think, our closest to that part of the world.
Okay.
And then so Chicago, New York, and then Tennessee. I think those are the next 3 stops.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And that's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. Like each event is really different and unique. The Chicago event is our first all-day seminar. So we actually start at 9 a.m. Normally we don't start until like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, but we're going to have a morning session, an evening session. And then if you get the VIP ticket, you get to do, I think there's a VIP lunch and a VIP dinner. And then you get like this really nice grab bag that's got like a lot of really cool merch and stuff in it. And of course there's I think we've had so many people be generous. So we started off giving out 1 million Pulse and 1 million PulseX. And now it's up to, I think 3. I don't know if it's 3 and 3. It might be 2 and 3. And I can't tell you right now off the top of my head which is which, but I think it's around 3 million Pulse and 3 million PulseX,
nice.
2 and 3. And usually it's to people who are no coiners. Like so far we've had either people who don't have crypto at all or have very little win the raffles. So that's been really cool to see. Like Black Hexican was just telling her story about how the person who won in Denver, I think, or maybe it was before that, but they've been consistently reaching out to her and going back and forth and learning how to bridge and, I love that I can think about the ripple effect of that, right? Like this woman who's a little bit older, a little not tech savvy, right? The fact that she's getting in and we get to teach her these things, who knows who she's going to go on to teach or who's going to find out about, this ecosystem through her. So yeah, check it out on the website, pulsechain.com. Thank you.
That is awesome. So thank you so much. And, really excited for you guys and what you're doing. I hope everything fills up. So guys, go to pulsechaintour.com, check out what's going on. Go follow SJ on all her platforms. I will drop that in the description once this is over. So, are you able to hang in the green room for like a
Yeah.
couple minutes?
Yeah. I got some time.
Okay. So I'm just going to wrap it up and I'll see you in there.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
Bye.
So thank you guys for being here tonight. That was so awesome hearing SJ's story. So guys, make sure you go to pulsechaintour.com, follow her on all her platforms, and thank you to everybody who has liked, who has subbed, who is watching the replay, who is watching it live. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to everyone's comments, but those of you who shared some of your stories in there, thank you so much. It's always mind-blowing to hear that, and I hope you all will return next week. So I will talk to you guys soon. I have some exciting things on the roster, on the planner, whatever it's called. I don't know. But you guys have a wonderful night. All right, I'll see you soon. Bye.